welcome to our Morning Throners podcast.
I'm Nelson.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners.
Welcome back to another special episode of your favorite, I guess we're going House of Dragon podcast, baby. Let's go. Usually your Morning Throners talking Song of Ice and Fire. Today, Nelson and I will be diving into a little, I don't know what Nelson has planned up his sleeve, but a little preview of the House of Dragon coming soon.
Yeah, House of the Dragon. I'm super excited for the House of the Dragon. Part of the reason I wanted to start doing this podcast is because I'm an insane person and I take like insane notes on these books anyway.
You were already taking notes of the book before it was going to be a show.
Yeah,
you're a psycho.
Well, first thing I want to see is like, Jeff, what do you know about House of the Dragon? Like, you've seen the trailers.
I mean, to be honest, probably only from the trailers and like hearing you talk slightly about the history of it and just kind of knowing the history of the Civil Wars. I don't know. I probably know more about the Blackfire Rebellion from Dunk and Egg. And just because you probably dived into the first history of that one more than this one. Yeah. But from the trailers, just knowing that there's a king, there's a brother of the king, and there's a daughter of the king.
Yep.
Right? And the king has to choose who his heir is, that's kind of debatable. It just seems weird to me that at this point they had to choose. I feel like the line had gone to girls before. I might be wrong, but I feel like Targaryen girls had taken over before.
It hadn't. And one of the things is, I guess people could probably guess it, but you haven't read Fire and Blood.
I have not, no.
That's the book that this is based on. Again, I don't recommend that book for most Game of Thrones fans. Like a lot of people, now I've seen like a lot of like content creators being like, oh, read Fire and Blood, it's awesome. And I like Fire and Blood. I'm not saying it's a bad book by any means, but it's definitely not for everybody. It is not. It's not at all like Game of Thrones.
We'll drop the biggest spoiler about Fire and Blood.
What do you mean?
How it's like a story written from the point of view.
Yeah, exactly. So in this, I've read Fire and Blood, but in this podcast, in case anyone was worried, there are no spoilers from at least House of the Dragon. Jeff and I, we have both read the full series. If this is the first video you're seeing or podcast you're hearing from us, our normal thing is we go chapter by chapter through, reading one chapter at a time. We're almost done with Clash of Kings right now. Jeff and I have read the books before, but one of the people who's normally on the podcast, Kyle, who's not here today because he's not going to be watching House of the Dragon for a reason I'm about to explain, he has not seen the show or read the book. So normally the podcast we normally do is we each read the chapter. We do a podcast, we're normally about an hour long, where we talk to Kyle, go through the chapter chronologically, see what he thinks about it as a first time reader who's also never seen the show, and then he hops off and me and Jeff will go into like spoilery stuff, like, oh, this foreshadowed this, so this person's going to die in the next chapter, Kyle doesn't see it coming, that type of stuff, right? Talking about theories, talking about comments people write in, that kind of thing. In this one, I kind of want to talk about book spoilers, like normal series spoilers. Again, there's not going to be many, but towards the end of the main series, there's kind of a big plot point that I think is going to be crucial in this show.
Interesting. I don't even know what you're talking about.
So Maester Marwyn tells Sam, again, this is a spoiler for, I think this is in the end of A Feast of Crows, Maybes, and Dance of Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Maester Marwyn tells Sam that like dragon slayers didn't kill the dragons, Maesters did. Something along those lines.
Oh, okay. Right.
And there's a long thing where Lady Dustin has a monologue to Theon in Dance of Dragons. Right, the Boltons control Winterfell, they're all crammed in there. Theon is still Reek. Lady Dustin's trying to get him to show her where the crypts are because she wants to like piss on their bones or something. She hates the Starks. So there's this long thing where she basically says the whole reason that all the marriages was happening, where the Starks were trying to marry the Tullys and the Tullys also married the Aarons. The whole reason that all these marriages between all the houses except for Targaryens was happening was because the Maesters were trying to set up Robert's Rebellion, basically. They're trying to make it so that if something bad goes wrong with the Targaryens, all the houses are on one side against the Targaryens. Arryn, Tully, Stark, Lannister, Baratheon. You get all the main ones, right? And they're all connected.
And that was Tywin's planning or Tydos's? Is it Tydos?
Lady Dustin claims that this is the Maesters doing. She's like, Lord Rickard was the one that proposed the marriage, but don't ever think it was his idea. Like it was all the gray rats is kind of what she's saying. So she's saying the Maesters are big schemers here. One of the reasons I don't want Kyle to watch the show is as a person who's never seen the books before, I feel like that's kind of a huge, again, nothing's come of that before.
To give you to not trust the Maesters. Like We've already kind of been like keeping an eye on Maester Lewin.
Exactly. We've kept an eye out before. And Lewin seems like one of the nice ones, but again, when you look there's a few things, it's like, is he giving good
Like
counsel about
what?
like letting
Yeah,
John go to the wall and like that kind of stuff? Like, could he know
sure.
about true parent, like that kind of things?
I mean, the letter from Lysa.
Yeah. So again, I want to try and stay focused on House of Dragon stuff here, but I think the Macers is
So wait, I don't think you said it. Like the book Fire and Blood is written from the point of view of a Maester, of the Maesters.
that's one thing I'll talk about, but that's not even really what I was getting at with that point. The whole point there is
Yeah,
if the Maesters are pulling strings and they're not just like advisors and they cause the Dance of the Dragons,
we're gonna
we're
see.
gonna
We're
see
gonna
that
see
in
it.
this show.
Yeah.
We're gonna see. Again, I would hope, right? I would hope we see that in this show, where like maybe a Maester changes some words in a letter before he sends it off, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
fans the flames a little bit. I would hope we see that. And again, like you're saying, the Fire and Blood book, unlike if anybody listening is familiar with Tolkien's work, right, the Lord of the Rings, and then the Silmarillion, George R. R. Martin's Fire and Blood gets compared to the Silmarillion all the time. The big difference that everyone always points out is the Silmarillion is like fact. It's like an encyclopedia of Middle Earth. What's in that book is true, period. What Jeff was saying earlier is Fire and Blood is written from the point of view of a maester. So if the Maesters were doing anything fishy during this time period, it wouldn't be showing up in this book because
they wouldn't write it in. You're not gonna write your bad history.
History is written by the victors, and if they got the dragons to kill each other, Maesters are a huge victor. You know what I mean? They won that battle big time. So I think that's something that I hope is in the show. But
and we don't want Kyle to see it.
But one of the things I was going to talk about is one of the things I'm afraid of for this. One of the things I wanted to go over was a few things I'm like worried about for this show. One is I don't want them to really do anything that affects the books really at all, or I don't want them to try and like make the show like play into the original series.
It's kind of a super broad question though. Like, what could they really do that would affect the books? Like,
you don't pay attention to all the news on this like everyone like I do, right? Like HBO has been releasing like a new trailer every day or two. And again, I say new trailer very loosely. It's like a new 5 seconds.
It's the same.
It's the same trailer with like 5 seconds added somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean?
You're not even a trailer guy. Why are you watching the trailers? You shit on trailers all the time.
I watch all this stuff. Trailers, interviews with people. I've watched like a few reviews of people who have been to the premiere and seen the first episode. And something that's kind of come out, there was a big article. This is the article Kyle linked in the Discord. So we have a Discord for anybody who wants to join. We always take a spoiler talk from people. But Kyle, the guy who's normally on the podcast with us, he linked something in the Discord the other day. And it was a really like clickbaity headline. It was like, George R. R. Martin announces that he's done predicting when Winds of Winter will come out. Like he announced this like that was like 4 years ago. He had basically on his Nada blog said, I'm done giving any date. Like it'll come out when it comes out. But like they used that as this clickbait headline. But if you read the article, it was a sit down with George and the head creator of the show, Ryan Condal, and they were like answering some questions. And some of the things was like, oh, there was some reception to this thing in the first episode, and they said what it was. So this is going to be a minor spoiler for the first episode. It's kind of getting into what we're saying. Is apparently the Targaryens knew about. Again, it's very vague, so we don't know much about it. But there was some prophecy that they had known about that they were trying to like pass down through their generations, theoretically about the White Walkers, right? And I think the insinuation is the reason Aegon conquered and united Westeros was
to fight the White Walkers.
We need to be united when this shit happens, or we don't stand a chance, right? Because people think that the Targaryens came over and took over Westeros. That's not true. They came over and lived on Dragonstone for I think like 100 years, maybe a little more than that. It was like several generations where it was just like, oh yeah,
and they only left Valyria because of the doom of Valyria.
Exactly, but after like it's not like they left the doom and conquered Westeros. They left the doom and they were just another family. They were House Targaryen on Dragonstone, just like House Valerian is on Driftmark, and you know what I mean. And House Tarth is on Tarth, or what is it? Yeah, House Tarth is on Tarth. So like they were just another family, and then all of a sudden Aegon conquers. Like he's just again, like he's had his grandfather grew up on Dragonstone, I think, right? So they've been here a while. It's not like
what was the reason for conquering?
We don't know.
Okay.
George has kind of been hinting at this in interviews. Again, it's not in the. I've never seen any hint at this in the text anywhere.
It does make it seem like he just came over and immediately ruled from Dragonstone. Like I knew they started on Dragonstone, but
yeah. But again, before any of this like prophecy stuff, I knew that there was like a time where they weren't there, but I didn't think anything of it. I just thought like, oh, Aegon was a hothead, and he's like, let's fucking take over because we can. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I thought it worked. George apparently had started hinting that like, oh, there might have been a reason for it, wink wink, in like interviews like a year ago or 2 years ago maybe. And again, it might have just been because he knew this show was coming and this was going to be a part of it. And again, I don't even know this is a part of it, but this is kind of like gossip going around, is that at least a minor theme or a minor plot line in the show is going to be like, we know this secret has to be preserved, we have to pass it down. Like,
why does it need to be a secret?
I guess it doesn't need to be a secret. They could, like, well, yeah, why don't they just tell everyone in Westeros, like, hey, this shit's coming, get ready for it? Yeah, that's a good point.
We need to be together.
That's a good point. I don't know.
Seems like it's pretty stupid to keep that apart. Like, if you need to band people together for a common good.
And again, I don't know if any of this is true. I just know that's one of like the rumors going around. But like you said, like the one thing I'm afraid of is if they do anything that would mess theoretically with the books. That's something that I could see messing with the books. Like that could be true in the books, and the first time we're seeing about it is on TV. You know what I mean? Like I don't want anything to be revealed for the first time on a TV show.
I gotcha.
I want the books to be the first time anything's revealed. And maybe I'm just like a book purist, but
I mean, it sounds like you're not going to get it. Like, who knows? At this point, the only Targaryen in the books is Dany and maybe Fagon, and neither of them are going to know the Targaryen history of the prophecy. Like, someone's going to have to tell them.
But how it could relate to the books is like we hear that like Rhaegar. Right, there was like Rhaegar was like a really bookish. He cared about reading and playing the harp, and then all of a sudden one day he read something in his scrolls, and he showed up in the yard, and he like told like the Master at Arms like, I read something and I need to be a knight. I just realized I have to be a knight. And like people think that he read the Azor Ahai prophecy. He's like, well, time for me to be a badass or something like that, right? And there's like one or two times where they talk about like Rhaegar being really into prophecy. I think Aemon even mentions it. Could it be because again that's a unbroken Targaryen line from when this show's going on till Rhaegar. It might not be. It might be that we didn't lose that, like that secret or that prophecy. We didn't lose it till Dany. Right. Is I guess like the implication, potentially the implication there, because she's the one that was a baby and never had any contact with anybody, and maybe Viserys knew it but never told. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So, again, I don't think it's a big deal either way, but who knows what else they could do that's like that.
All right, so what would be the biggest thing? Like, it's so far away. Give me the years from the book to
200 years before.
I mean, could something really be that crazy that 200 years of history is preserved and then it fucking the bomb drops?
So I guess my big question is the TV show canon, right? Is everything on the TV show we see true for the books? Because it seems that way, and again, I haven't mentioned this yet.
Is it canon to the books or canon to the TV show? I guess it doesn't really matter. Like, they're going to get to the same spot, but...
So the reason I feel like this show is being treated as very, very canon, and again, I told you this before, but the way Fire and Blood is written is, especially during this time period, there's a point where during this like 20-year period, I guess it's like a 29-year period that this first season is going to take place. During this period, a Grand Maester in King's Landing dies.
Okay.
And again, the person who wrote this book, theoretically, is a Maester at the Citadel who wasn't even there during any of this, right? He's writing this from a collection of other sources, mainly the Grand Maester's writing. At this time, though, the Grand Maester dies, and the new Grand Maester keeps shitty notes. So there's a point in Fire and Blood where he's like, yeah, we don't have good notes from the Grand Maester anymore. We have some, but we basically at this point have to start relying on these other two slapdicks, the Septon in King's Land at the time, Septon Eustace, and this fool Mushroom, who is basically supposed to be Moon Boy, right, from King's Landing. Moon Boy, Dantos, Tyrion, because he's Mushroom's an imp, so people like compare him to Tyrion, but he's really like Moon Boy. Like, people think he's simple, he's not simple in Moon Boy. Like, Dantos tells Sansa in a chapter we just read, Moon Boy sells all that shit to Varys.
Are we gonna see a Moon Boy or see a Mushroom?
A lot of people have wondered that. He hasn't been in any trailers, but
right, like they would have had to cast the dwarf, right?
I think it's something that they could keep secret, and it would be like a huge, like for people like me, I would be like, oh my god, like you don't even have to have him have any speaking lines, just have him like be dancing in the have a dwarf dancing in the background, you know, because that's like his role. He's literally just there overhearing stuff.
I want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you a little upset that you know exactly what's going to happen?
This is what I was going to say. This is kind of why I'm excited about this show, and why I think I'm kind of concerned that it's being treated as super canon. Because the way this book was written, like I said, where there's these three sources, a lot of the stuff in this will get like three different ways. So, like, for example, they'll say... Just
use a hypothetical or like a...
Yeah. We know Carly and Madison were best friends, and then all of a sudden they stopped talking to each other. But we don't know why. We don't know if it's because Carly fucked Madison's dad, or Madison fucked Carly's boyfriend, or Madison killed Carly's dog. But one of those three things happened, and then they never talked to each other again. So like we know the outcome, and we've heard three possible ways that thing could have come about.
Right.
But like I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
Like even me, I've read Fire and Blood. I don't know which one.
And do you think George came back and was like, all right, this is how we want to portray it in the show?
Yeah, I think he basically gave him an answer for every single one of them.
Yeah.
Or they came up with an answer, and George said he basically. My understanding is like George has okayed everything, and they're basically treating this show as like, yes, this is the true happenings of that. Which again, we are gonna find out anything the Maesters covered up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, there's the one thing I was reading yesterday that kind of popped out to me is that, again, being very vague, there's a character who gets two different letters, but like within the same year. We hear like, oh, this letter arrived. Oh, this letter arrived because both letters contain big news, and the reactions just don't match.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one letters should have made him like way more upset, and it said like, oh, he didn't even like smirk. And then the next one like seems like it's not that big of a deal, and he like beat the person who gave him the letter to a bloody pulp, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it probably the reactions are just flipped, and the Maester flipped the reactions either on accident or probably knowing George on purpose because he wanted to make it seem like he didn't care about the news when really he did, or you know what I mean? Like it's a Maester cover up type thing. So those types of things too, not just we don't know which account it is, but the things where at least me, like the way I've read, there's been at least a handful of things where I'm like, wait a minute, this is the Maester is doing some trickery here. Like we'll call somebody. I think I told you this one before. There's a point during a council where they're trying to like say like, oh, why the Baratheons would support this one claim over another claim. And they say, oh, he was her great uncle, so there was like kind of a reason to support. But if you look at the family tree, he's the great uncle on the dad's side, but he's her like actual uncle. He's her mom's sister on her mom's side.
Mom's brother.
Yeah, mom's brother. But the Maesters in the book only present this distant relation because they kind of want it to be like, he kind of supported her, but like just because of a distant relation. But there's a fucking relation there. It's my niece. So like, again, I haven't heard anybody talk about that, but like that's the type of thing that is like a Maester cover up, and we're going to find out, like, did he really fucking support her? Like, was he like, no, yes, I want this person to be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we'll find that type of thing out.
Okay.
So the last thing I wanted to do was I kind of wanted to go through the trailer and just see if there was anything that caught your eye that you wanted to talk about. Again, we're not going to like do a trailer reaction. I've already seen it. You've already seen it. Just like anything we're missing. Like one thing we haven't talked about at all on a show called House of the Dragons is the dragons.
Yeah.
There's 17 dragons that are ridden at this time, and I think 20 total dragons.
They're all alive? 20 alive dragons?
It might be a maximum of 17 with 14 ridden. There's three wild dragons.
That's pretty crazy.
I know there's at least 17 total in the show, but I thought it was 17 ridden, but it might be 17 total.
Does any Targaryen claim the three wild ones, or they like were on a fucking mountain and they're just flying around freely?
I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one. That would be season 2, season 3 material. That we won't see any of the wild dragons in this season. I've heard that already.
Interesting.
That is a good question.
Okay.
So the one thing I'll say before we watch the trailer, just cover a few of the headlines that I've seen recently that I think you probably haven't seen because I know you've been real busy lately, and also because you don't follow this stuff like an animal like I do. And kind of see what you think about them. So,
I would be completely good with watching episode by episode and just waiting. I mean, obviously you just see shit pop up on your timeline from there, but yeah, I haven't had the time to dive in. Yeah.
But this is like people are, I think, again, maybe it's just me and I'm in an echo chamber, but I think people are like pretty hyped for the show. I'm like really excited about it. The other thing, you don't know this about all. You've never even seen Lord of the Rings. That's something we've been thinking about doing for the YouTube channel. But there's a new Lord of the Rings TV show that's like supposed to be on par with House of the Dragon, coming out like 2 weeks after House of the Dragon. And I hear like a lot of people just being like, that show is going to be so shit compared to House of the Dragon.
I mean, have they already seen the first episode?
So I don't know if anybody's seen the first episode of that, but like they've seen trailers and like apparently they're varying from the source material. Again, I don't know. I don't know Tolkien material enough to.
The great part about House of Dragon is they can't really fuck it up. They have a start, and they have a finish, and they have some shit in between. You can't really like season 1 of Game of Thrones, like you've always said.
So good.
It's the book basically, and it's great just to get the visualization. Like we don't need the crazy. You always said that you don't need the crazy effects. We don't care. Truly, you probably don't even care about the dragons. They're gonna be sweet, but like would you rather have good story or great visual effects? And
But here, the dragons are part of the story, right? They're going to be like a
well,
main.
I mean, the three dragons were part of the show too, but
You'll see. I think you'll see what I mean. Way more so than like.
okay. Well, all right, just hit me up with the headlines.
So one headline that I've seen, and again, I don't have it in front of me. I'm just kind of off the top of my head. George had said he wanted 3 things mentioned. I think, and maybe we talked about this off air.
You did mention, I think. I know one is like Jaehaerys the second.
Yeah, Jaehaerys the second, which again is a king that happens 100 years from now. But apparently, what I've heard is that the reason he might want that is because in the scene where Maester Aemon in the show says. So again, what I'm saying is George R.R. Martin says there's 3 things that he had kind of told the showrunners. I need you to at least. I want you to include these 3 things, and one of them was something relating to Jaehaerys II, who was a king way later after the timeline. And the part where Aemon talks to Jon, and he's like, and then they killed the little ones, and they killed my father, Maekar, and his father, and then his sons. You know what I mean? He's going through the people he killed.
Mm-hmm.
When he's doing that, he skips Jaehaerys II. So it goes from Maekar to Egg, his brother. Egg's son, Jaehaerys, becomes king. He's Jaehaerys II. His son is the Mad King. When Aemon tells that to Jon, he just skips Jaehaerys, and it makes total sense. So like, it makes sense. I don't fault Dan and Dave for doing it at all. Jaehaerys ruled for like 2 years, and it just makes
nobody cares about him.
It makes the conversation more complicated. He didn't really do anything, which is kind of confusing. Like, he's a very nonsensical king. Like, even in the World of Ice and Fire, he gets like 3 paragraphs, and it's like, oh yeah, there was wars going on. He didn't go, and then the wars were over, and then he died. And it's like, okay, cool. Barristan's Selmy was popping off during that time, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So, like, why does George want him included? I have no idea. So that's just a weird thing. The other 2 are kind of interesting. One is he wants more colorful dragons.
Yeah.
And he wants more colorful, like, banners and heraldry. Yeah. So, like, he wants it to be, I don't know, more over the top. They got
people
a little
to wear
dark.
the colors. Wear the colors a little bit. I mean, literally, they were wearing like steel plate with their sigil on it, not like a red. I want to see
Lannisters
like the cool ass.
Red.
Like the Hound wore his Hound helmet.
Yeah.
I think one episode. I think it was the first time he showed up. He was wearing his dog helmet. He never wears it again.
In the books, it's a huge plot point because it gets stolen.
I want to see a Baratheon with fucking stag horns on his fucking helmet and shit.
So we definitely see some of that in the trailer, where we see guys with like the huge dragon wings on their helmet, which again, like medieval people would just be like, that's impractical. A sword will get stuck on that. You would never wear it. Shut the fuck up. It's Game of Thrones.
Who cares? It's Game of Thrones helmet.
And the last thing is the more colorful dragons, which goes into the other news thing that I think you would be interested in, is they were kind of saying, like, how do you make 17 dragons look different so that you can, like, a viewer can be like, I know which dragon that is by looking at them. And the one obviously is going to be color, but the other one is like, they took, when they designed the dragons, they like used 3 different variations of skulls. So some of the dragons have been designed with as like dinosaur skulls, so they look more like dinosaur-y. Some have been designed with wolf
like
skulls.
Lizard. Oh, interesting.
And some with horse skulls.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So like the ones that have like wolf skulls kind of have like a bigger smile, and like you can see like their like lips go the whole way back, kind of like a dog's would.
Yeah. Would you say the ones that we've seen already are dragon or dinosaurish?
Yeah, from Game of Thrones, you're saying?
Yeah,
I would think so. Yeah, that's kind of where I would put them, because there's 2 dragons in this that look unique, and I know that they have said this one is a wolf dragon and this one is a horse dragon.
Interesting.
So yeah, let's see here. So again, Jeff and I are gonna watch this, but I'll pause it at different points and see if we'll talk about anything. Again, the things I'll be pausing, I'll put anything we pause on, I'll put in the YouTube video, but this should be pretty audio friendly, I would think.
That dragon's got a long ass neck.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the very opening shot. This dragon is called Draxes. This is Daemon Targaryen's dragon. Again, that doesn't mean anything to probably you or a decent amount of you guys. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really matter. This is known for being like a really long dragon, and they talked about this one specifically. Like, I guess when they design these dragons, they like actually 3D modeled them in some software, and then like they try and make them fly. And they said this one wouldn't fly. So this dragon is known. It's called the Bloodworm in the book. It's like that's like its nickname is Caraxes the Bloodworm. So they wanted to make it like really long and worm-like, again, to try and make these dragons be able to differentiate them from afar. But when they did it, they said they couldn't get it to fly. So I don't know if you.
This dragon can fly or can it fly?
So I'll get there. I don't know if you can see it in any of this trailer. There's definitely at least a shot I've seen somewhere, but this dragon has like weird wings on its back legs. They had to add like flippers to his back legs to get it to be able to fly. And again,
That's crazy.
That's what they said. I don't know if that means like in some like simulation software or what, but
yeah. I mean, I'm sure they just made it like a bird, right?
Yeah, I guess. And again, this one's hard to tell who it is, but this is probably Cyrax or Cyrax. Again, I'm not sure how you say some of these. I say them differently every time. We'll see in the show how they say them. So this is, again, another dragon shot. This is just a shot of King's Landing. It looks sick.
Mm-hmm.
I think this just looks sweet. And what's this we got in the back here?
Is that the Sept?
So the Sept wasn't built yet. So this is before Baelor, the Blessed, who built the Sept, was even alive.
Is that the dragon pit?
This is the dragon pit. So we've never seen this in Game of Thrones, right? Because the dragon pit's destroyed.
Doesn't look big enough.
So I've heard people say that there's a shot of somebody like at ground level outside this thing.
It's massive.
That thing must be far away. Yeah. This thing's huge.
Like the dragons do they live there right now?
Yeah. Again, the shot later is one of the dragons going into that, so you can kind of tell like how huge it is.
Okay.
So this is Daemon Targaryen. He's called the Rogue Prince. He's gonna be one of the best characters. People who've seen the first episode are basically saying give this guy an Emmy already, or whatever it is you get for TV. I don't know the awards. This character is all over the place. Like the way George describes him, he's like the most hated and the most loved character in like the realm. Like the shit he does is he's all over the place. He's gonna be like
a Joffrey.
Like a Jaime Lannister turned up to 11 is the only way I can think about it. Like incest included. Like he wouldn't blink at pushing a baby out a window. But I think people are also going to love this character more than any other character. Like that kind of guy. He's very interesting. He's again called the Rogue Prince. So
okay.
So this is that dragon Caraxes, the bloodworm.
He's pretty big, and he's a wolf.
Yes, dog. This is a dog face dragon, exactly. Got like the big smile. I kind of like it.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, without doing spoilers, this is the foot of Vhagar.
How the fuck do you know that?
Because there was 3 dragons that they conquered Westeros with. Balerion the Black Dread, Vhagar, and Meraxes. So those are the 3 that conquered the 7 kingdoms, but those 2 are dead. Balerion and Meraxes are dead. So this is like the oldest dragon alive. So we don't know what dragon this is. All we've seen is this foot, but basically everyone's saying this just has to be the biggest dragon, right? So this has to be Vhagar.
Okay.
So pause here quick. We didn't talk about that yet, the new throne. So you've seen it though. Maybe there might be a better shot, a different spot that I can put up for the thing. But you know what I'm talking about, right? How they have all these swords on the side.
The 1,000 swords.
What do you think about that? Like, it's not the one I like.
It's not. Yeah, I mean it's closer for sure.
It's closer, but then like you have the whole problem of like what happened? Like where did the swords go?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean they tried. I mean, is that one thing that's like this isn't canon because they actually fucking did this, or?
Well, one of the things that I hate the most is it's a kind of a cool quote that Littlefinger does in the show, but it's one of the things that irks me the most about the show is when he's like,
I counted. There's 200.
Yeah, like no, there's like the point. There is an actual point to the show, like or the books that like it's very menacing. There are over 1,000 swords there, and he's like, oh, it's not. It's a lie. Like no, it's like fuck you.
Bullshit. Fuck you.
Yeah. I think it's a better throne, but kind of weird. So this is another character we haven't really talked about yet. This is the Valerians.
You've mentioned him before, off air.
He marries a Targaryen. You were joking earlier when I showed you a family tree. Said Laena is going to be kicking shit off. This is her dad. This is Laena's dad, and her mom is a Targaryen. This is another Valyrian family, but they were never dragon lords. They never ruled dragons. They were always seafarers. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to do was, is there anything that you're excited for? I guess you don't know. You don't have too much to expect.
I don't have much. I don't have much expectation. I'm just ready to enjoy the story.
The 2 things that I'm excited for that I think you're going to agree with me on are I'm just excited to get Westeros back on TV again. Like season 8 got a lot of shit, but we love season 8 up until halfway through episode 5 of season 8, right?
Really, up until we sat down and thought about it, though.
The whole way, yeah, until we sat on it for a week.
If you just watched it, if you're just not a hardo, don't be a hardo. Just watch it to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't hate on stuff.
You fail at that. You fail at that all the time.
I feel like I'm very easy to please. I like a lot of stuff.
No, dude, you hate everything.
When I pick out something that I don't like about something, you think it means I hate it, but it doesn't mean I don't like it. It just means
No, you hate on stuff hard.
sometimes. You're right. You're probably right
Early on,
sometimes.
hard. Uh, just enjoy it. Like you could maybe not like a thing or two, but it's better than not having it. That's a fact.
True, unless it ruins my book, unless it fucks with the canon of the book. But I don't. That's the only thing.
But then
that's
you
one of
can
the things
just
I'm worried
say it's
about,
not canon. Just believe it's not canon in your head.
yeah. So George has this great quote for this, where people say like, "Do you ever wonder if like the Game of Thrones TV show ruined the legacy of your book or ruined your books?" He's like, "They didn't ruin my books. They're over there." And he points to his
Mhm.
bookshelf. He's like, "That TV show didn't do anything to my books. I can always go pull my books out and read them." So yeah, that's the one thing. Is like, sure, George says it's canon. Maybe I don't like that. In my head, I can always have my own mind canon and be like, "Fuck that show."
Mhm.
They never
Yeah,
got this prophecy or
absolutely.
whatever, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, it doesn't change the books. It's all about your outlook. The other thing is the music, right? So they got the same guy who did the music for Game of Thrones. Nobody's seen the intro. Like even people who went to the premiere, they didn't show them like the intro.
I bet it's going to be fairly similar.
It can't. It's got to be like there's so much expectation for it. It's got to be pretty sick. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm just excited for the new music.
I would almost expect it to be same-ish. Like it's going to be like a harp or something, right? Like it's going to be like a string instrument
I don't know. Even like the trailers have pretty good like
background score.
dun, dun. Like there's a part where the gold cloak's like dun dun like pounding their chest doing a little
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey action. And it's like matching up with the beat. So yeah,
Mhm.
and the other thing I've heard is like, again, I wish I knew what this means, and I guess we'll be able to say if we agree or not after we see the first episode. Is like apparently it feels more Westeros than ever. Like
Hmm.
the way people have described it is like this is the height of Westeros. Like this is when
Yeah.
like Westeros.
Everyone's up. Nobody's down.
Like this is like when Caesar was ruling Rome, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Everyone's up. Like fucking naked women feeding you grapes on every street corner type thing. You know what I mean? Like just fanning you. Like everyone's happy. Like,
The poor people aren't poor.
and the other thing is, so there's the two showrunners is Ryan Sapochnik, I'm probably getting their names wrong. Ryan Condal and Miguel Sapochnik. Fuck, I
Okay.
mixed their names together. Ryan Condal's like a huge Game of Thrones fan. Again, I haven't seen too many interviews with him, but my understanding is he's like
Season 8 sucked.
pretty close to me, like a book
Yeah.
fan. Like
He's been taking notes himself.
yeah, like he was super geeked up about this shit. And the other guy, there's two showrunners, the new D&D. The other guy is Miguel Sapochnik, who directed Hard Home, directed The Battle of the Bastards. He directed The Bells. So
Some of the cool, the most
Bells,
of the cool.
which is episode 5 of season 8.
Yeah, you didn't like that one.
I mean, that's
The Bells was stupid.
That's the one. Again, the storyline's stupid, but the visuals were badass.
The end of the Bell, she blows everything up, right?
Again, it's dragons blowing up shit. So like, yeah, get the guy
Yeah.
who knows how to do that. Yeah. So, but what people have said is like it just feels like it's a huge scale. Like it just feels way bigger. Like you can tell like you're in a huge room type
Yeah,
thing.
that's cool.
So yeah, I'm excited for it. I mean, unlike season 1, the one thing it does have going for it is I don't know the budget, but I'm sure they threw a fuck ton of money at this thing, right? So
They had to. They weren't gonna do it. They couldn't. You can't go backwards.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You can only go forward. You're only going to spend more. And the next one, you're only going to spend more.
Well, the other thing too is how many shows do they have in development off this? Like I said, I think they have a show 9 Voyages about Corlys Valerian. They have I think a show called 10,000 Ships about Nymeria, her crossing.
Show me Arya Stark what's west of Westeros.
No, I don't want anything after Game of Thrones. Nothing after Game of Thrones. No Jon Snow, no Arya west of Westeros.
Show me Jon Snow just chilling in the north.
Show me Jon Snow from age 0 to 14.
That'd be cool.
What's going on there? Nothing. It's like just 16 years of peace after the Bale. After
Cat just yells at him for 14 years.
just give me a 1-season mini series of the Bale the Greyjoy rebellion. You know what I mean? You get Thoros Amir rushing through the breach, drunk as fuck with his flaming sword. You get Jorah Mormont.
Let's be honest. We want Duncan Egg. Get us Duncan Egg.
The thing is, Duncan Egg is. I love those books so much. I almost don't want it. Like I don't want them to even try. Because like I love those books and whatever. It could never be as great as it is in my head.
It doesn't matter. Dude, you would cry if you actually
100%
saw.
I would cry, but it would still never. I cry when I read the books. It would never be as good as it is in my head.
It would be as good. It would be.
The first Duncan Egg book is so
You
good.
just have no
If you've
faith.
never read the first
All right.
Duncan Egg book, read the first Duncan Egg book. But we're
Sign
just
off.
blabbering at this point. We'll see you guys in the next one. I might post a YouTube video with like some spoilery stuff for House of the Dragon for those of you who have read Fire and Blood and kind of want to see. Again, I don't know what the point of that would be. I would be going over a family tree for everyone who knows the family tree, but maybe a refresher for people who aren't as crazy as me and don't actually know how all that shit works. So we'll see.
All right.
But
Bye.
yeah, see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.